Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where stories come alive in the gentlest way possible. Tonight we're diving deep beneath the ocean waves to a place where crystals glow with ancient magic and love blooms in the most unexpected circumstances. If you're here, chances are you're looking for something peaceful, something that'll help your mind drift away from the chaos of the day and into a world where adventure meets tranquility. Before we begin our journey tonight, take a moment to get comfortable. Dim those lights, pull up your favorite blanket, and let yourself settle into whatever cozy spot you've claimed for the evening. This story is crafted specifically to help you unwind, to let your thoughts slow down like gentle waves lapping against a peaceful shore. And if you find these bedtime tales helpful, a gentle tap on that like button tells me you'd enjoy more adventures like this one. Tonight's story takes us to the lost city of Atlantis, but not the Atlantis of crumbling ruins and forgotten dreams. This is Atlantis alive and thriving, where bioluminescent creatures paint the water with living light, and ancient wisdom flows through crystal-powered technology. Our tale follows two souls whose paths intertwine in ways that neither quite expected, creating ripples of connection that spread far beyond their underwater world. What makes this story special isn't just the magical setting or the gentle romance that unfolds. It's the way love grows quietly, naturally, like coral formations that build beauty over time. There's no dramatic conflict here, no hearts breaking or worlds ending. Instead, we'll witness something far more precious: the slow and steady building of trust, understanding, and genuine affection between two people who see something extraordinary in each other. Picture yourself floating gently through warm, crystal-clear waters where the pressure of the surface world simply doesn't exist. Down here, time moves differently. Conversations happen in soft whispers. Movements are graceful and unhurried. Even the light itself seems to understand that this is a place for peace, filtering through the water in soft, dancing patterns that shift and shimmer like living dreams. The Princess Kida moves through her underwater realm with the fluid grace of someone born to this aquatic world. Her white hair flows behind her like silk caught in an eternal gentle breeze, and her eyes hold the deep wisdom of the ocean itself. She's not the typical princess waiting in a tower, though. Kida is a guardian, a protector of ancient knowledge, someone who understands that true strength comes from understanding rather than force. Milo, meanwhile, represents something entirely different. Where Kida embodies the mystical and eternal, Milo brings curiosity and wonder. His enthusiasm for discovery lights up even the deepest ocean trenches. He's the kind of person who sees magic in the mechanics of how things work, who finds poetry in the practical. When he looks at the crystal technology of Atlantis, he doesn't just see power, he sees possibility. Their first meeting wasn't the stuff of fairy tale romance. No love at first sight or dramatic declarations. Instead, it was the kind of encounter that plants seeds, small moments that grow into something beautiful over time. Kida was tending to the heart of Atlantis, the great crystal that powers their civilization, when she noticed someone watching from the shadows, not with suspicion or ill intent, but with genuine fascination. Milo had been trying to understand the crystal's properties, sketching notes and diagrams in his worn notebook. He wasn't trying to exploit or steal. He was simply trying to comprehend something that defied everything he thought he knew about science and engineering. When Kida approached, instead of demanding explanations or calling for guards, she asked a simple question that changed everything. "What do you see when you look at our crystal?" The conversation that followed lasted hours, though neither of them noticed time passing. Milo described the energy patterns he observed, the way the crystal seemed to respond to emotional states rather than mechanical commands. Kida shared stories her father had told her about the crystal's history, how it had chosen their people and guided them through centuries of growth and learning. They discovered something remarkable that night. Despite coming from entirely different worlds, they shared the same fundamental curiosity about how things worked, why they mattered, and what they could become. Milo's scientific mind complemented Kida's intuitive understanding of her world's mysteries. Where he saw equations and principles, she saw living energy and ancient wisdom. Together, they began to see something neither had perceived alone. As days turned into weeks, their conversations became a cherished ritual. Each evening, after Kida's royal duties were complete and Milo's research had reached a natural pause, they would meet in a quiet grotto where the crystal's light painted everything in soft, warm hues. These weren't formal meetings or planned encounters. They simply found themselves drawn to the same peaceful space where words came easily and silence felt comfortable. Kida began showing Milo parts of Atlantis that few outsiders had ever seen. Hidden gardens where plants grew in impossible spirals of color and light. Libraries carved from living coral where knowledge literally grew on the walls. Workshops where artisans shaped metal and stone, using nothing but focused intention, and crystal amplified will. Each new wonder sparked questions in Milo's mind, and each question gave Kida a chance to see her world through fresh eyes. For Milo, these guided tours became something far more meaningful than academic research. He wasn't just learning about Atlantean technology or culture. He was learning about Kida herself, the way she spoke to the crystal gardens as if they were old friends, how she remembered the names and stories of every artisan they met, the gentle pride in her voice when she described her people's achievements, and the quiet sadness when she spoke of the knowledge that had been lost over the centuries. Kida, in turn, found herself looking forward to Milo's reactions to each new revelation. His genuine excitement never felt intrusive or greedy. When he marveled at a piece of crystal architecture, it wasn't because he wanted to possess it, but because he truly appreciated its beauty and ingenuity. His questions weren't attempts to extract secrets, but honest efforts to understand and connect. They began working together on small projects, nothing grand or world-changing, just quiet investigations that satisfied both their curiosities. Milo would bring his analytical approach to understanding how crystal technology interfaced with biological systems. Kida would share the traditional knowledge passed down through generations of crystal keepers. Together, they made discoveries that neither could have achieved alone. One evening, while examining a particularly complex crystal formation that seemed to store and replay memories, they found themselves sitting closer together than usual. The crystal was showing them scenes from Atlantis' past, moments of joy and celebration, of learning and growth. As the images flickered and danced in the crystal's depths, Kida began sharing her own memories, stories of her childhood, her fears about living up to her responsibilities, her dreams for her people's future. Milo listened with the same careful attention he brought to his research, but this felt entirely different. This wasn't about understanding ancient technology or lost civilizations. This was about understanding Kida as a person, her hopes and worries, the weight she carried, and the joy she found in simple moments. When she finished speaking, He shared his own stories, his struggles with feeling like he belonged anywhere, his passion for discovery, his growing sense that maybe he'd found something in Atlantis that he hadn't even known he was looking for. The crystal around them seemed to pulse gently, responding to the emotional resonance of their conversation. Neither of them mentioned it, but both noticed how the light seemed warmer, how the memories it displayed began to include moments of connection and understanding between people from different worlds and backgrounds. They had crossed some invisible threshold that night, moving from friendship into something deeper and more meaningful. It wasn't dramatic or overwhelming. It was as natural as the tide, as gentle as the bioluminescent creatures that drifted past their grotto entrance. They had found in each other something rare and precious, a connection that transcended the boundaries of their different worlds and different ways of understanding life. As they sat together in the crystal's gentle glow, watching memories of the past dance with possibilities for the future, both Kida and Milo felt something they had never experienced before, a sense of completeness, of finding someone who truly saw and appreciated who they were beneath all the roles and responsibilities and expectations. The ocean around them seemed to approve, carrying their quiet laughter in gentle conversations through the coral corridors of Atlantis like a blessing, like a promise that some connections are strong enough to bridge any distance, deep enough to weather any storm. The days that followed brought a new rhythm to both their lives, a gentle cadence that neither wanted to disturb. Kida found herself making small adjustments to her daily routine, choosing paths through the city that might lead to unexpected encounters with a certain curious surface dweller. Milo, meanwhile, discovered that his research notes had begun to include observations that had nothing to do with ancient technology and everything to do with the way sunlight filtered through water to catch the silver threads in someone's hair. Their meetings evolved from formal discussions to comfortable companionship. Sometimes they would work side by side in peaceful silence, Kida maintaining the crystal networks while Milo sketched diagrams and theories. Other times, they would explore the outer reaches of the city, swimming through kelp forests, where schools of luminescent fish created living constellations against the deep blue backdrop of the ocean floor. One afternoon, while examining a section of the city that had been damaged centuries ago and slowly reclaimed by nature, they discovered something extraordinary. Hidden beneath layers of coral growth and settled sediment was a chamber neither of them had seen before. The entrance was barely wide enough for one person, but the space beyond opened into a natural cathedral of stone and crystal. Water flowed through the chamber in gentle currents, creating a soft whisper of sound that seemed almost musical. Bioluminescent organisms had colonized the walls, painting them with soft patterns of blue and green light that pulsed in slow, hypnotic rhythms. At the center of the space, a cluster of crystals grew from the floor like frozen flowers, each one humming with a different tone that harmonized with the others to create something beautiful and strange. Kida moved toward the crystals with reverent steps, her expression filled with wonder. She had never seen this place before, but something about it felt familiar, as if it had been waiting for her to find it. When she placed her hand on the largest crystal, it responded with a warm glow that spread through the entire formation. And suddenly, the chamber filled with music unlike anything either of them had ever heard. Milo watched in fascination as the crystals began to resonate with each other, creating layers of harmony that seemed to respond to Kida's presence. But when he stepped closer, and added his own touch to one of the smaller formations, something remarkable happened. The music shifted, becoming richer and more complex, as if the crystals were somehow incorporating his essence into their song. They stood together in the heart of the melody, surrounded by light and sound that seemed to celebrate their connection. Neither spoke, afraid that words might break the spell, but they didn't need language for what was happening between them. The crystals were somehow amplifying and reflecting the harmony they had found together, turning their growing bond into something they could actually see and hear. When the music finally faded to a gentle whisper, they found themselves still standing close together, hands still touching the crystal surfaces. Kida's eyes held a soft amazement, as if she had just witnessed something sacred. Milo felt as though he had glimpsed the very heart of what made Atlantis magical. Not the technology or the power, but the way it responded to genuine connection and understanding. They made the hidden chamber their special place, returning whenever they needed to escape the demands of the world above. Sometimes they would bring books or research materials, working quietly while the crystals provided a gentle backdrop of harmonious sound. Other times, they would simply sit and talk, sharing stories and dreams, while the bioluminescent creatures painted shifting patterns on the walls around them. It was in this sanctuary that their relationship deepened beyond friendship into something neither had quite expected. There were no grand declarations or dramatic moments, just a gradual recognition that they had become essential to each other's happiness. They began to notice how the other's mood affected their own, how a shared joke could light up their entire day, how even the most mundane tasks became interesting when done together. Kida started teaching Milo some of the traditional Atlantean arts, not the complex crystal manipulation techniques reserved for the royal family, but simpler skills that any citizen might learn. How to encourage the growth of living light in small organisms, how to read the emotional resonance of different crystals, how to move through water with the efficiency and grace that came naturally to her people. Milo proved to be an eager student, though his surface world background sometimes made things challenging. His tendency to overthink simple processes occasionally interfered with the intuitive approach that Atlantean techniques required. But Kida was a patient teacher, gently guiding him away from analytical thinking toward the more feeling-based understanding that her people used. In return, Milo shared his own knowledge and perspectives, teaching Kida about the surface world she had never seen. He described seasons and weather, the way rain felt on skin, and how snow transformed familiar landscapes into something magical. He told her about cities that sprawled across the land instead of growing organically like coral, about machines that moved without crystal power, about books made from trees rather than grown from living coral. These exchanges became a form of intimacy unlike anything either had experienced before. They weren't just learning facts about each other's worlds. They were learning to see through each other's eyes, to understand not just what the other person knew, but how they thought and felt about their knowledge. As weeks passed, their connection began to affect those around them in subtle ways. The crystal networks throughout Atlantis seemed to hum with slightly more harmony than usual. The gardens grew more vibrantly, as if responding to the positive energy that surrounded the developing relationship. Even the city's inhabitants noticed something different, though few could identify exactly what had changed. Kida's father, the king, observed his daughter with growing curiosity. She had always been devoted to her duties and her people, but lately there was something new in her demeanor. a lightness, a joy that went beyond mere contentment with her responsibilities. When he asked about it, she would smile and change the subject. But he could see that whatever was happening was good for her in ways that went deeper than royal obligations. The other members of the expedition had their own observations about Milo's transformation. His usual intensity about his research remained, but it was tempered now with a contentment they had never seen in him before. He still filled notebooks with observations and theories, but he also spent long periods simply sitting and watching the world around him with the kind of peaceful attention that suggested he had found something he hadn't even realized he was looking for. Their growing bond began to manifest in small, everyday gestures that spoke of deep caring and consideration. Kida would leave small crystals where she knew Milo would find them, each one chosen for properties she thought he would find interesting or beautiful. Milo began incorporating Atlantean design principles into his sketches and notes, creating hybrid concepts that bridged the gap between surface world engineering and crystal-based technology. They developed their own private language of looks and small gestures, the kind of unspoken communication that grows between people who spend enough time together to learn each other's patterns and preferences. A raised eyebrow from Kida might signal that she had found something particularly intriguing in her crystal work. A slight tilt of Milo's head could indicate that he had just made a connection between something she had taught him and his broader understanding of how things worked. Their conversations evolved to include not just shared interests in discoveries, but hopes and dreams for the future. Kida spoke of her vision for Atlantis, how she wanted to see her people continue growing and learning while maintaining their connection to the wisdom of the past. Milo shared his thoughts about bridging the gap between the surface world and Atlantis, finding ways for both civilizations to benefit from contact without either losing what made them unique. These discussions weren't just intellectual exercises. They were explorations of a possible shared future, gentle tests of whether their individual dreams might align into something they could build together. Neither pushed too hard or demanded immediate answers, but both began to see possibilities that neither had imagined when they first met in the crystal chamber weeks ago. The ocean itself seemed to celebrate their growing connection, providing perfect conditions for their explorations and discoveries. Currents flowed just right to carry them to new and interesting places. Marine life gathered around them with unusual boldness, as if sensing that these two beings posed no threat and might even bring something positive to their underwater world. Even the tides seemed to coordinate with their meetings, creating perfect conditions for the quiet moments they had come to treasure. Low tide revealed hidden alcoves and forgotten chambers, while high tide brought schools of curious sea creatures that danced around them in spirals of living light. The ocean had become their ally, their protector, their silent witness to something beautiful taking root in its depths. One evening, as they sat in their secret crystal chamber, watching the familiar light patterns dance across the walls, Kida made a decision that had been building in her heart for days. She reached into a small pouch at her side and withdrew something that made Milo's breath catch in his throat. It was a crystal, unlike any he had seen before, small enough to rest in the palm of his hand, but containing what looked like an entire galaxy of swirling light. "This belonged to my mother," Kida said softly, her voice carrying the weight of memory and significance. "She wore it when she performed the bonding ceremony with my father, and her mother wore it before that. It has been passed down through generations of our family, each woman adding her own essence to its core. Milo looked at the crystal with the reverence it deserved, understanding instinctively that he was being shown something sacred. The light within seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat, as if recognizing something familiar in his presence. When Kida placed it gently in his hands, the sensation was unlike anything he had ever experienced. Warmth spread through his fingers and up his arms, carrying with it a sense of connection, not just to Kida, but to all the women who had held this crystal before her. My people believe that crystals choose their guardians, Kida continued, watching his face carefully for his reaction. This one has been restless lately, humming with energy that responds to your presence. I think it has been waiting for you, though I cannot say why or what it means. Milo felt the truth of her words in the way the crystal seemed to settle into his hands, as if it belonged there. The light patterns within shifted and swirled, creating new configurations that neither of them had seen before. It was as if the crystal was somehow documenting this moment, adding their connection to its long history of love and commitment. They sat together in comfortable silence, both understanding that something significant had just occurred. This wasn't just the sharing of a family heirloom. It was an acknowledgement of how deeply their lives had become intertwined. The crystal pulsed gently between them, its light creating patterns that seemed to celebrate the moment and bless whatever was growing between them. In the days that followed, Milo carried the crystal with him wherever he went. He noticed how it responded to different situations and emotions, glowing brighter when he was happy, humming softly when he was deep in thought, growing warm when Kida was nearby. It had become more than a gift. It was a constant reminder of their connection and a bridge between their different worlds. Kida, meanwhile, found herself experiencing a lightness she had never known before. The weight of her royal responsibilities hadn't disappeared, but it felt more manageable now, shared somehow with someone who understood both her burdens and her joys. Her duties to her people remained paramount, but they no longer felt isolating or overwhelming. Their relationship began to influence their individual pursuits in unexpected ways. Kida's approach to crystal work became more analytical and systematic, incorporating some of Milo's methodical thinking while retaining her intuitive understanding. Milo's research took on new depth as he learned to trust his instincts and feelings rather than relying solely on logical deduction. They started collaborating on projects that neither could have conceived alone. Together, they developed new applications for crystal technology that bridged ancient wisdom with innovative thinking. Their work attracted attention from other Atlanteans, who marveled at the elegant solutions they created by combining different approaches to the same problems. One of their most successful collaborations involved creating a new type of communication crystal that could transmit not just words, but emotional resonance. Traditional Atlantean crystals could carry messages across vast distances, but these new formations could convey the sender's feelings along with their thoughts. The implications were staggering, offering the possibility of deeper understanding between individuals and even between different communities. The project brought them into contact with other couples throughout Atlantis, pairs who had found love and partnership in various forms. They met artisans who had spent decades perfecting their crafts together, scholars who had devoted their lives to shared research, guardians who protected the city as unified teams. Each couple had their own story of how they had found and nurtured their connection, but all shared the common thread of mutual respect, shared purpose, and genuine affection. These encounters helped Kida and Milo understand that what they were experiencing wasn't unique in its essence, but it was special in its particular expression. Love and partnership took many forms in Atlantis, but theirs carried the additional complexity of bridging two very different worlds and ways of life. The other couples they met offered wisdom and encouragement, sharing the lessons they had learned about maintaining connection while honoring individual identity. As their bond deepened, they began to dream together in ways that went beyond their waking conversations. The crystal chamber, where they spent so much time, seemed to facilitate a kind of shared consciousness, allowing them to experience each other's thoughts and feelings with unusual clarity. These weren't invasive intrusions, but gentle sharings, like streams of consciousness that flowed together before separating again. In these shared dreams, they explored possibilities that neither had dared to voice aloud. Visions of a future where surface dwellers and Atlanteans worked together for mutual benefit. Images of new technologies that could help both civilizations thrive without compromising their essential natures. Scenes of children who carried the best qualities of both worlds, raised with love and wisdom from multiple traditions. These dreams felt more real than most of their waking experiences, carrying a weight of possibility that influenced their daily decisions and long-term planning. They began to see their relationship not just as a source of personal happiness, but as a potential bridge between worlds, a living example of how different peoples could find common ground in mutual enrichment. Their growing confidence in their connection gave them courage to be more open about their relationship with others. They stopped hiding their frequent meetings or disguising their obvious affection for each other. The crystal Kida had given Milo became a visible symbol of their bond, its gentle glow a constant reminder to everyone around them that something special was happening. The response from both communities was overwhelmingly positive. Atlanteans saw in their relationship a beautiful example of their city's capacity to welcome and integrate newcomers. The surface dwellers who had come with the expedition recognized in Milo's happiness a validation of their decision to seek out Atlantis and build bridges with its people. King Kashikim watched his daughter's transformation with growing approval and understanding. He had always known that Kida would need to find her own path to happiness, and he could see that path was leading her towards something beautiful and meaningful. The young surface dweller had proven himself worthy of trust and respect through his genuine interest in Atlantean culture and his obvious devotion to Kida's well-being. The king began including Milo in discussions about Atlantis' future, recognizing that his outside perspective and analytical skills could contribute valuable insights to their long-term planning. These conversations weren't just about policy or governance. They were about ensuring that Atlantis could continue to thrive while adapting to a changing world. Milo found himself becoming an unofficial ambassador between the surface expedition and the Atlantean leadership, helping to facilitate understanding and cooperation between groups that had initially viewed each other with suspicion. His relationship with Kida gave him credibility and access that might have taken years to develop through formal channels. As autumn approached in the world above, though seasons had little meaning in the depths of Atlantis, both Kida and Milo felt a sense of anticipation building between them. They had moved beyond the tentative stages of getting to know each other and into the comfortable rhythm of established partnership, but something new was stirring in their connection. The crystal networks throughout the city had begun responding to their presence in unprecedented ways. Lights burned brighter when they passed, and the harmonic frequencies that powered various technologies seemed to achieve new levels of efficiency and beauty. It was as if their growing bond was somehow enhancing the very life force of Atlantis itself. Other members of the royal family and the expedition leadership began to discuss the implications of what was clearly becoming a permanent union between their peoples. These weren't negotiations or formal arrangements, but gentle conversations about how to support and celebrate a relationship that was bringing joy and benefit to everyone involved. The crystal chamber that had become their sanctuary continued to evolve in response to their presence. New formations appeared regularly, each one more beautiful and complex than the last. The music that the crystals created when they were together had developed into a symphony of such complexity and beauty that other Atlanteans began making pilgrimages to hear it. Kida and Milo understood that they had become something larger than themselves, a symbol of possibility and hope for both their peoples. But rather than feeling burdened by this responsibility, they felt honored to represent the potential for love and understanding to transcend any barrier or difference. Their quiet moments together became even more precious as they realized that their relationship was no longer just their own. They belonged to each other, but they also belonged to their communities and to the future they were helping to create. The crystal between them pulsed with the steady rhythm of two hearts beating in perfect synchronization, a reminder that some connections are strong enough to change the world. The rhythm of their days, had settled into something that felt both new and eternal, like the gentle pulse of the ocean currents that carried them through their underwater world. Morning would find them working separately on their individual responsibilities, Kida attending to the needs of her people, while Milo continued his research and documentation. But by evening, they would inevitably find their way back to each other, drawn together by a connection that had grown stronger with each passing day. Their conversations had evolved beyond the careful exchanges of their early meetings. Now they could sit in comfortable silence for hours, each absorbed in their own work, while remaining deeply aware of the other's presence. Sometimes Kida would look up from her crystal maintenance to find Milo watching her with an expression of such gentle admiration that it made her heart flutter, like the fins of the small fish that darted between the coral formations. Milo had begun to understand the subtle language of crystal resonance that governed so much of Atlantean life. He could read the mood of the city in the way the lights pulsed through the pathways, could sense when Kida was approaching by the way his mother's crystal grew warm against his chest. The analytical mind that had once tried to categorize and explain everything had learned to simply accept and appreciate the magic that surrounded him. One evening, as they swam together through the kelp forests that surrounded the outer districts of Atlantis, they discovered a grove of sea anemones that glowed with an unusually intense light. The creatures swayed in the gentle current, their luminescent tentacles creating patterns that seemed almost deliberately artistic. Kida approached them with her characteristic reverence for all living things, extending her hand to let the anemones brush against her fingers. The response was immediate and breathtaking. The entire grove erupted in waves of color that rippled outward like music made visible. Blues and greens cascaded through the water, followed by warm golds and gentle purples that painted everything in their path with liquid light. The anemones seemed to be responding not just to Kida's touch, but to something deeper, some quality of harmony that surrounded both her and Milo. Milo reached out his own hand, and the light show intensified, becoming a symphony of color that danced through the water around them. They floated together in the center of this natural celebration, surrounded by beauty that seemed to exist solely for their joy. Neither spoke, afraid that words might break the spell, but both understood that they were witnessing something extraordinary. The anemones weren't just responding to their individual presence. They were celebrating their connection. The patterns of light that swirled around them seemed to map the invisible bonds that had grown between them, making their emotional resonance visible in ways that took their breath away. They had become part of the living symphony of the ocean, their love adding its own unique melody to the eternal song of Atlantis. As they swam home through passages lit by their own inner glow, reflected back at them by every crystal surface they passed, they carried with them the understanding that their relationship had crossed another threshold. They were no longer just two people who had found each other in an unlikely place. They had become something new together, a partnership that enhanced not just their own lives, but the very world around them. The crystal chamber that had become their sanctuary welcomed them with music that seemed richer and more complex than ever before. The formations had grown again during their absence, new clusters of gleaming stone that hummed with frequencies they had never heard before. When they settled into their usual spot, hands touching the crystal surfaces that had learned to respond to their presence, the entire chamber filled with harmonics that seemed to celebrate their return. It was in this moment of perfect peace and connection that Milo found the courage to voice something that had been growing in his heart for weeks. The words came slowly, carefully, shaped by the understanding that some things once spoken could never be taken back. He told Kida about the dreams that had begun to visit him, visions of a future where their two worlds worked together, where the barriers between surface and sea became bridges instead of walls. Kida listened with the complete attention she brought to everything truly important, her eyes reflecting the crystal light in ways that made them seem like windows to the depths of the ocean itself. When he finished speaking, she shared her own visions, dreams of exploration and discovery that went far beyond the boundaries of Atlantis, journeys they might take together to places neither had imagined alone. Their words wove together, like the harmonics around them, creating something beautiful and complex from the simple act of sharing their hopes. They spoke of children who might carry the best of both worlds in their hearts, of discoveries that could benefit all peoples, of love that could survive any challenge because it was built on the solid foundation of genuine understanding and mutual respect. The conversation that followed lasted until the bioluminescent creatures outside their chamber began to dim with the approach of what might have been dawn in the world above. They talked about practical things and impossible dreams with equal seriousness, mapping out a future that felt both wildly ambitious and completely achievable. By the time they finally fell silent, they had moved beyond hoping for a shared future into actively planning for it. The crystal formations around them pulsed with a steady, warm light that seemed to approve of their decisions and bless their intentions. The music that accompanied their planning session had evolved into something that sounded almost like a celebration, as if the chamber itself was joining in their joy and anticipation. In the weeks that followed, their relationship began to influence the broader community in ways neither had anticipated. Other young Atlanteans began approaching them for advice about their own romantic relationships, drawn by the obvious happiness and harmony that surrounded Kida and Milo. They found themselves becoming unofficial counselors, helping others navigate the complexities of love and partnership with the wisdom they were gaining through their own experience. The crystal technology throughout Atlantis continued to respond to their presence with increasing sophistication. Lights burned more efficiently. Communication networks carried messages with greater clarity, and the great heart of Atlantis itself seemed to pulse with renewed vitality. The elders began to speak of their relationship as a blessing to the entire city, a source of harmony that strengthened the very foundations of their civilization. Milo's fellow expedition members watched his transformation with amazement and approval. The driven academic who had joined their mission had evolved into someone who understood that the most important discoveries couldn't be measured or cataloged. His research notes now included observations about the nature of happiness and connection that would never appear in any scientific journal, but that captured truths more valuable than any technical specifications. King Kashakim began including both Kida and Milo in his formal councils, recognizing that their unique perspective as a bridge between worlds offered insights that traditional Atlantean wisdom alone couldn't provide. Their input helped shape policies that would affect both communities for generations to come, ensuring that the growing relationship between surface dwellers and Atlanteans would be built on foundations of mutual respect and shared benefit. The hidden chamber, where they had first heard the crystal song, became a place of pilgrimage for other couples seeking to deepen their own connections. The formations there had grown into something magnificent, a crystalline cathedral that responded to the presence of love with music, unlike anything heard elsewhere in Atlantis. Kida and Milo felt honored to share their sanctuary with others, understanding that some gifts are meant to be passed on rather than hoarded. Their individual skills and talents had begun to merge in ways that surprised even them. Kida's intuitive understanding of crystal resonance now incorporated analytical techniques that helped her achieve more precise and powerful results. Milo's research had evolved to include emotional and spiritual dimensions that traditional surface world science would never have considered. Together, they were developing new approaches to understanding both technology and nature that neither of their peoples had imagined before. The mother's crystal that Kida had entrusted to Milo had become more than a symbol of their bond. It seemed to serve as a communication device, allowing them to sense each other's moods and thoughts across any distance within Atlantis. When one of them was troubled, the other would feel a gentle tug of concern that led them together for comfort and support. When one experienced joy, the crystal would pulse with shared happiness that doubled their pleasure. Their collaborative projects had begun attracting attention from scholars and artisans throughout Atlantis. The communication crystals they had developed were being tested in remote outposts, allowing isolated communities to maintain emotional connections with their families and friends in the main city. The success of these trials opened up possibilities for maintaining contact with surface world communities that both sides were eager to explore. As their relationship deepened, they began to plan expeditions that would take them beyond the boundaries of Atlantis to explore the wider ocean together. These wouldn't be research missions or diplomatic ventures, but journeys of discovery undertaken purely for the joy of exploring the world hand in hand. They spoke of visiting underwater mountain ranges where no Atlantean had ever traveled, of swimming with creatures that existed only in legend, of finding hidden places where the ocean kept its most beautiful secrets. The seasonal rhythms of the surface world had begun to influence even the depths of Atlantis, carried down by subtle changes in current and temperature that marked the passage of time above. As winter approached in the world they had left behind, Kida and Milo found themselves drawn to warmer waters, where thermal vents created pockets of tropical paradise in the deep ocean. These natural hot springs became favorite destinations for their evening swims, places where they could float together in perfect comfort while watching exotic creatures that thrived in the heated water. Their love had settled into the kind of steady, reliable happiness that forms the foundation of the strongest partnerships. There were no dramatic declarations or grand gestures needed anymore, just the quiet certainty of belonging completely to each other. They moved through their days with the synchronized grace of dancers who had been performing together for years, anticipating each other's needs and moods with intuitive accuracy. The rest of Atlantis had begun to plan for what everyone understood would eventually be a formal bonding ceremony. Though Kida and Milo themselves seemed in no hurry to make their relationship official, they were already bound to each other in every way that mattered, and the formalities could wait until they felt ready to take on the additional responsibilities that would come with public recognition of their union. Their story had become part of Atlantean folklore, even while they were still living it, a tale told to children about the power of love to bridge any gap and overcome any obstacle. Young Atlanteans grew up hearing about the surface dweller who had won the heart of their princess, not through conquest or drama, but through genuine curiosity, respectful appreciation, and the kind of gentle persistence that builds trust over time. The ocean itself seemed to have accepted them as a permanent fixture, providing perfect conditions for their explorations and discoveries. Currents flowed in their favor, marine life gathered around them with unusual boldness, and even the most dangerous predators seemed to recognize that these two posed no threat and deserved safe passage through their territories. As they settled into their crystal chamber on another peaceful evening, surrounded by music that had become as familiar as their own heartbeats, Kida and Milo felt the deep satisfaction of two souls who had found their perfect home in each other's presence. Tomorrow would bring new adventures and discoveries, new challenges to face together, and new joys to share. But tonight, in the gentle glow of crystals that sang their love back to them in harmonics of light and sound, they were exactly where they belonged, wrapped in the warm certainty that they had found something precious enough to last for all the tides yet to come. The gentle currents that carried them through another peaceful evening brought with them the kind of contentment that settles deep in the bones, the satisfaction of hearts that have found their perfect rhythm. In the soft glow of their crystal sanctuary, time seemed to move differently, stretching each moment into something precious and unhurried. The formations around them pulsed with familiar warmth, creating patterns of light that had become as comforting as a lullaby. Kida's fingers traced lazy spirals in the water beside her, watching the way the movement created tiny eddies that caught and scattered the crystal light. She had grown to love these quiet interludes, when the demands of leadership faded into background whispers, and the world narrowed to just the two of them and the gentle music of their sanctuary. Milo sat beside her, his notebook forgotten for once, simply existing in the moment with the kind of peaceful attention that spoke of a mind finally at rest. They had begun to develop their own evening ritual, a sequence of small actions that marked the transition from the busy world outside to the intimate space they had claimed as their own. Milo would carefully adjust the position of the smaller crystals, coaxing them into harmonies that complemented Kida's natural resonance. She would respond by humming softly, adding her voice to the crystalline chorus in ways that made the entire chamber bloom with richer, warmer tones. And so their love settled into the eternal rhythm of the tides, a gentle pulse that would carry them through all the seasons yet to come. In the depths of Atlantis, surrounded by crystals that sang their story back to them in harmonics of pure light, Kida and Milo had discovered something more precious than any treasure buried beneath the waves. They had found home in each other's hearts, a sanctuary that would endure long after the last star reflected on the ocean's surface. Let their peaceful contentment carry you into your own dreams tonight, where love flows as naturally as the currents that embrace the sleeping city below.